Hey everyone, this is Mike. So today I'm going to talk about how would a Jungian analyst help people deal with the current Israel-Iran conflict. Apparently the formal war is over, at least temporarily paused. But how would a Jungian psychoanalyst help people deal with something like this? So a Jungian analyst, when helping people deal with the current Israel-Iran conflict, would focus on the deeper symbolic and archetypal dimensions that play out in both individual psyches and the collective unconsciousness of the involved nations. They would aim to bring unconscious patterns of consciousness, fostering a more integrated and less reactive response. Here's how they might attempt to help. Acknowledge and integrate the collective shadow. Projection of the shadow. Jung believed that individuals and groups project their unacknowledged, undesirable traits, fears, and aggressions onto others. This is the shadow. In the Israel-Iran conflict, a Jungian analyst would highlight how both sides likely project their collective shadow onto the enemy. Each nation might see the other as embodying absolute evil, fanaticism, or existential threat, thus avoiding confrontation with its own internal capacity for aggression, intolerance, and historical grievances. The analyst would explain that recognizing and integrating one's own shadow rather than projecting it outward is critical for psychological health and, by extension, for de-escalation. Us versus them and collective complexes. The conflict exacerbates powerful us versus them narratives. These often stem from cultural complexes, emotionally charged patterns within a society's collective unconscious, often formed by historical trauma, religious narratives, or national myths. For instance, collective historical complexes around persecution, victimhood, and destiny could be deeply activated in both societies. The analyst would help individuals understand how they are caught in these larger unconscious dynamics, which can make rational discourse and compromise incredibly difficult. Identifying activated archetypes. The Jungian analyst would consider which powerful archetypes are being constellated and influencing the collective behavior. The warrior-hero archetype. This archetype, while necessary for defense and courage, can also manifest destructively as blind aggression, zealotry, and self-sacrifice for a cause. The analyst might examine how both sides glorify their warriors and justify violence under the banner of heroism, potentially leading to an inflation of the ego, individual or national, and a loss of ethical perspective. The victim archetype. Both Israelis and Iranians have historical narratives of suffering and victimhood. This archetype, when excessively constellated, can lead to a sense of righteous indignation, a refusal to acknowledge any wrongdoing, and a perpetual reenactment of past injustices, making reconciliation challenging. The destroyer-trickster archetype. The chaotic, unpredictable, and often destructive nature of the conflict could be seen as a manifestation of the destroyer archetype. The analyst might also consider the trickster's role in disinformation, propaganda, and unexpected turns of events that sow confusion and erode trust. The mother-father archetype, nation as parent. The concept of homeland or motherland, fatherland often carries the archetypal weight of the great mother or father. A threat to the nation thus becomes a primal threat to security and identity, eliciting powerful, often irrational protective responses. The analyst would explore how this deep emotional connection to the land fuels the intensity of the conflict, and the archetype of the apocalypse end times. Given the religious and eschatological elements present in both cultures, the archetype of the apocalypse or end times might be unconsciously constellated. This would contribute to a sense of fated conflict, a belief in the inevitable final showdown, which undermines efforts for diplomatic solutions. Facilitating individuation and consciousness. Confronting the personal shadow. For individuals experiencing distress from the conflict, the analyst would help them explore how their own personal shadow material gets activated. For example, intense hatred, desire for revenge, feelings of helplessness. By bringing these uncomfortable emotions to consciousness, individuals can begin to integrate them rather than projecting them outward or being overwhelmed by them. Symbolic expression and meaning making. Dreams, fantasies, and creative expressions, art, writing, can offer symbolic insights into the unconscious impact of the conflict. The analyst would work with these symbols to help individuals process trauma, find personal meaning amidst chaos, and connect with deeper transpersonal resources for resilience. For example, recurring dreams of destruction or being pursued could be explored for their symbolic message. Holding the tension of opposites. Jung emphasized the importance of holding the tension between opposing forces, good and evil, peace and war, hope and despair, rather than collapsing into one-sidedness. The analyst would encourage individuals to tolerate ambiguity and complexity, recognizing that the situation is rarely black and white, even when it feels that way. This fosters psychological maturity and opens the possibility for new solutions. Connecting to the self. The self is in Jung's archetype of wholeness and regulating the center of the psyche, and at times of profound external upheaval, connecting with the self can provide an inner anchor, a sense of meaning and guidance. The analyst would help individuals access the inner wisdom, fostering resilience and a sense of purpose beyond the immediate crisis. And promoting the collective reflection indirectly. While Jungian therapy is individual, the principles of collective shadow, integration, and archetypal awareness could hypothetically inform broader social and societal conversations. If individuals within the warring nations could begin to acknowledge their own collective shadow aspects and see how the archetypes are driving their actions, it could slowly pave the way for more nuanced understanding and eventually a path toward reconciliation. This is a long-term challenging process, but one a Jungian perspective would see as essential for lasting peace. In summary, a Jungian analyst would delve beneath the surface of the Israel-Iran conflict, seeking to understand the deep unconscious psychological forces at play. Their work with individuals would focus on bringing these dynamics to consciousness, integrating personal and collective shadow material, understanding archetypal influences, and fostering a more resilient and integrated sense of self amidst its external turmoil. This approach ultimately aims for psychological transformation that could, over time, contribute to a shift in collective attitudes and behaviors. So what do you think about how a Jungian would approach helping people deal with and manage the Israel-Iran conflict? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll speak to you next time.